You're watching Money Talk Viewpoint, and I'm Chantel Leeson. Successful businesses have one thing in common, and it's the right clients, prospects, and customers. And before I get started, now I want to introduce my entire group. A.K. Pandy's in the background. You won't see him, but he's going to tell us how much time we have left, because when you're having fun, you run out of time. Stuart Cruz is my co-host, and my guest speaker is Jason Milan. He'll be the last one I'll introduce. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for being here today, particularly those of you who are with schools, high schools, and colleges who are looking to move your children forward into a very successful life and very successful career. Thank you for being with us. Now let me introduce my co-host, Stuart Cruz. Stuart is a chartered financial analyst. He's a quant investment advisor, a TEDx speaker, a published author. Stuart is also a venture capitalist and is a CFO for Virtual Family Office. Stuart, thanks for being part of our team.
Thanks for having me, Chantel. Sounds like that introduction is more than I deserve, but I appreciate it.
No, I think you're a great guy. You know, I want you to tell the audience the difference in a family office and a virtual family office.
Yeah, great question. So a family office, I'm sure you're aware, the concept came, I believe it started with the Rockefellers. And what it is when somebody has, or a family has so much money, they can afford to hire a team of financial professionals like myself, CPAs, estate planning lawyers, tax mitigation specialists that are on their staff that can help basically reach their financial potential, right? But most of the people don't have that kind of wealth, because you can imagine with that staff on board, and somebody, if you're looking for the best of the best, you could really have a multiple million dollar cost per year. So in order for you to justify that cost, you should probably have in the neighborhood of 300, 500 million or more to actually have a real family office that is working as a team on your assets to make your assets work as efficiently as possible. Now, I don't know about your clients, but I don't have a stable full of those kind of clients. They don't have their own family office. My clients are millionaires, but they usually don't feel like they have enough money to, just retire and hire somebody full time. But most of my clients need some of those services some of the time. So that's where a virtual family office steps in. You can be proactive and give them the family office services that they would enjoy if they had their own family office, but certainly not at that same cost, and pretty much at their desire and an as needed basis.
Okay. I want to ask one other question. How does that differ from just a financial advisor in private wealth management? Can you share that with the audience? Because a lot of people go to a private wealth management practice. You and I both work for major firms, and that's not the same as a family office advisor. Can you share the difference in that?
Sure. And the distinction is really important. And I'll even tell you, for the first, call it 15 years of my career as a wealth advisor, of course, you want to service the clients in the best way possible. And I worked in those big bank environments before. But the compliance is such that they need to make sure that the firm isn't doing anything wrong. So a wealth advisor generally works in their own silo and in their own eco center to the extent that their company will allow them. So I know whenever I had a client and they were asking me advice on, let's say, insurance, which I don't sell. I'm actually licensed to sell insurance, but don't sell insurance. But I know I would get protective of my client's assets and start to talk, maybe not in the best proactive way for my clients, but how can I protect my own relationship with my client? And then when he's bringing the CPA in to discuss ideas, well, I wasn't allowed to have conversations with the CPA. I could, of course, give them tax documents, but in those large environments, you're just not allowed to have these deep dialogues and discussions about what's the best way to optimize my client's financial future, because a lot of times it doesn't involve the company you're working with, whether you're at a big bank or something. So with a virtual family office, that you flip the script, you go out of your way to be proactive and form a team. So you work proactively with the CPA and the client's other experts, whether they have estate planners that they have on board. And let's just say, by way of example, they have a bunch of real estate. When I was at a big bank, I couldn't recommend tax mitigation strategies or cost segregation or anything along those lines. But what we do now in a virtual family office is we proactively look for opportunities. We bring the CPA into the conversation. We bring in an expert as needed. So let's say it's cost segregation. You bring him in, you make as a team working together. And you can imagine, pick a sport. You work better as a team, not as individuals, right? Individuals trying to be superstars. You work better as a team. So the team comes together, presents the idea to the client. The client decides whether it's appropriate for them or not. And then you proceed with that solution as a group and as a team.
Okay, I think it's important for the audience to know, because some of them have the capability to have a private virtual family office, but aren't aware. And with that being said, I'm going to move to my special guest for the afternoon for today. And this is Jason Ma. Jason's the CEO and chief mentor for his award-winning family business 3EQ. It is a premier education business and family office advisory service. Jason has successfully counseled and coached with well-being one-on-one hundreds of students who've been accepted into the Ivy League schools as well as the elite universities in the US and in the UK. Stuart.
Jason is the author of the critically acclaimed book, Young Leaders 3.0, Stories, Insights, and Tips for Next Generation Achievers. He's formerly the Forbes contributor on mentoring young leaders for elite college admissions, higher education, leadership, and entrepreneurial success. Jason is a member of the B20, the official G20 Dialogue Forum with global business community, serving on the Future of Work and Education Task Force.
Jason is also recognized as the chief mentor and next generation leader by the CEO magazine, Family Office magazine, Impact Wealth magazine, numerous family circle summits, and CEO circles. And Jason is a sought after keynote speaker. I'm honored to have you. Jason, thank you for joining us today.
Well, it's such a pleasure and honor to be here as well. I think, Chantal, you meant some family office circle. So absolutely. I'm happy to contribute and inspire in this talk. So fire away.
You know, I want to start by asking, can you share with the audience what you do? I'm going to put you on speaker view, so it'll just be you on scene here. Yeah, where we go.
Okay, very briefly, I run two companies. I'm co-building another very exciting tech company. And then the other company is rolling my family office that you folks have kindly introduced, 3EQ. So you have to spell it out, THREEEQ.com. And I'm very passionate with my team. My daughters are involved. They're 25, 22. One's at Google. She began her 5th year as a software engineer. And I see a potential CTO in her as chief tech officer in the long term. And my younger daughter graduated Wharton, Penn Wharton this year. She started work at Salesforce Slack. Lo and behold, she's taking a path less traveled as a Wharton, business leadership kid. She's also a software engineer. She said, "Dad, I want to get deeper into tech." So, build empathy, compassion, understand the engineers. And then she accepted the offer way back in the beginning of her senior year. So she's like cruising. And when it comes to, it's very interesting. I could talk about how competitive the job market is too for employers and employees and all that. And so I'm very blessed, and I see a potential powerful CEO in my tiny little daughter. She's less than 5 foot, so she looks like still in high school. I joke with her all the time, but she's a dynamo when it comes to communication and leadership. So 3EQ, just like what you mentioned, I'm very big on grooming and mentoring the next gen. And it's such gratitude to be recognized as a chief mentor of next gen leaders. And I got awarded inducted into the League of Gentlemen in the Fashion for Development Sustainable Goals Banquet in the presence of UN heads of delegation, their first ladies, ambassadors, and a bunch of VIPs from entertainment and fashion for impact as a chief mentor of next gen leaders. So I think this talk, we're gonna go deep into the segment that is so fun and important, right? High school kids and college transfer kids. So fire away with the questions.
Well, Stuart, I'm going to let you start with the first question. Do you mind?
Yeah. So I got to tell you, Jason, I've got 4 kids, 11, 9, and 7. So I know
I'm
this.
planning.
Yeah, I know the stress and anxiety started when they were in kindergarten. They had to enter the right kindergarten so they could get to the right grade school, so they get to the right high school, and so on. And now my kids are in sixth grade, and the conversations are like, what high schools are they in? What do they need to do? And it seems to be changing a lot. And so what is going on in the space today in college prep?
Okay, so you talked about middle school kids and then high school kids. Let's think about middle school kids as pre-high school. How's that? To make it simple. And one of the Forbes articles I wrote is called "Why to Prepare for College in Sixth Grade." Now, when I wrote that, I intentionally did not write about academics, right? Performance. That's obvious, isn't it? I intentionally write about struggles, habits, choices, and through some anecdotes, including my daughters. My daughters back then were 14 and 11. And one daughter, she was struggling with activities. I have to guide them. That's my older daughter. And she ended up going to Georgetown. She got admitted to a couple of Ivy League schools in Berkeley, USC, a bunch of top private schools, and et cetera. But Georgetown is not as famous as Ivy's. She got admitted to a couple of Ivy League schools, but she felt right. And the rest is history, right? Georgetown was not even known for a good CS program, but lo and behold, she got into Google. That's a miracle by itself. That's a separate story. My younger daughter, back then, my older daughter's 25 now. Back then, she was 14. My younger daughter, she was 11 back then. She's now 22. She was struggling with, I'm sure a lot of parents can empathize, device addiction, social media addiction, lots of time wasted, slack time with mobile devices, with the iPad. And my wife and I back then had a deal that, she said, I said, honey, all right, you're a great nurturer. I'm the mentor, right? We're both super loving parents, right? So it's teamwork. And what I do, I'm going to take over and start coaching and mentoring Lydia, my younger daughter, at age 11, at age 13. But at age 11, I was like, oh my God, if I don't jump in right now, she's going to go off the deep end and she's going to become a vegetable, right? And so I have to jump in and start taking over and transforming her, disrupting the pattern and start reshaping her habits. So I'm not going to go that deep into it. We don't have much time. But I talked about transformation on how I converted bad habits to be a neutral to be good, and then good to be a super strength, right? So today, she's got this amazing ability to focus like you wouldn't believe. It's kind of like texting, do all sorts of crazy things, Gen Z, right? And then boom, all of a sudden go back to AP Chem and focus and get a 5, right? And kind of became the graduate summa cum laude. So it is all coachable and trainable and teachable and learnable for our kids. In summary, I think for middle school kids, one tip for parents and for fellow education leaders is really to shape their habits, right? Reading, really shape them, encourage them. As parents, your kids, once they go to middle school, your kids on average, gonna start not listening to parents so much. You know that, right? Just Mother Nature at work. It doesn't matter if you are a super kind, loving parent, you got a PhD in psychology, in English from Harvard, you're a billionaire. It does not matter. Your kids is not going to fully listen to you. Just Mother Nature at work, number one. Number two is that within the family, the parents and students sometimes are often too close. Sometimes it's kind of like selective advice, but you want to pick the best advisors to do that, right? So I see that from a third party trusted mentor standpoint. Now, with my family, I struggle as well. Do you think my kids fully listen to me? No, right? It's just Mother Nature. But because of what I do over the past now is like 20,000 hours, 20,000, 25,000 hours of success coaching, mentoring, applied research, writing, speaking. I tend to be maybe a little bit more skillful than 99.999% of parents. So net profit is that my kids still listen to me. And I was able to shape them, hone them, and guide them through the academics, non-academic process, kind of your schoolwork, your your academic performance, your school year activity, summer activity, of course, the kind of complex elite college planning, and then later on application, admissions process, and all the interconnected ingredients within the college process. It's kind of like making a movie, right? A movie is about character. It's about story and then storytelling, and then about the quality of a production. I think of it that way. I help shape incredible characters, and I've done it for a couple hundred times. and also help them build a great story that's a bit more distinctive because each person's different than the other kid, right? And then the production process is pretty much your application process, right? Which is very complex. Right now it's very hyper competitive. So I guess we should move on to the next question.
Well, let's continue with it down that vein. So you touched on a lot of topics there. Again, my two kids, they're 11-year-old twins, same genetic material. One is extremely thriving in university or in school, and the other one is severely dyslexic. And so they are faced with very different challenges. So
right.
you said, one of your daughters went to Georgetown. So how do you go about, and what are the ways that a parent can drive or guide their kids so that they can find the best fit school? Obviously, you're like, I want to go to Harvard, MIT, Stanford, whatever, Northwestern, pick a name, but that might not be the best answer. So what are the things that parents can do, and what should the kids be focused on to get to the best fit school, as well as, creating what you said is their own movie and their own production facility? So what EQ skills do they need? What other soft skills do they need to hone in order to get to their ultimate goal of kind of maximizing their potential?
Right. You mentioned about two kids at first, right? One's dyslexic. For example, one of my current students, he's a high school senior. I've been coaching him for over a year and a half so far. I coach kids that last 5 years in terms of our working relationship, or just a couple of months, right? But sooner to come in earlier. One key to success, I could with confidence say this because I see it over and over and over again. It pains me to see that. These are not my clients, right? They come in thinking like the kid is like a hotshot or, super good, very competitive, high achiever. Oh, great, fantastic grades, strong rigor, 1,000 APs, IB courses, activity this, captain, blah, 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 president. And then, but when I take a look, their perception is different than my perception because I come in like a chief surgeon in a hospital, right? I could do a surgery in 1 minute. It could take you 17 hours, you still fail. So I know exactly what to look for. It's like, things don't exactly work like that. Then I got to be very polite with them, and then I cannot change their history. What I find very often is that oftentimes the greatest mistake, the biggest mistake, and I wrote another article published 2 weeks ago by the Horizons Family Office and Investor Magazine. It's on my website. You could just take a look. In fact, I encourage our parents, right? Go to the high schoolers page. It's so insightful. It's got a bunch of articles in my talk with Harvard Business School Association. That'll give you additional insight, not covered in this talk. So you have to really start early, because a human being, if you start off with some bad habits, right? And now parents are beautiful. Parents are very loving, right? It's just that parents, when you become a parent, you don't have experience becoming a parent. You don't have experience, right? You could be very successful. You could be worth $300 million, but you're not an expert parent. Let's face it now, okay? You could be very loving. And I see mistakes and dumb advice thrown around all the time, and they fight. I see it from the inside within families, right? I'm brought in as a chief mentor for the family. And my job is to really bring up the best outcomes for the students, and also give the parents and the kids peace of mind, and also help them indirectly, tactfully enhance their relationships. So for example, another student, right? The parent, it's an ultra net worth CEO. He comes in, he's got a PhD in engineering from Stanford. And of course, get my kid into Ivies and other schools. I mean, the students I coach over the past couple of years, all of them got into Ivy League schools, okay? I picked my students, but it's not that easy. I tell you, it's very competitive. And then all of them, the first draft essays, for example, they suck. They really suck, right? So my editing team, sometimes I brought in even my daughters to give them the coaching, but I do all the coaching myself. It's really about the quality of your story that's attractive to the school. I'm going to reverse engineer with you, okay? So when I start coaching kids, right off the bat, I don't talk about what I want to major in. What are you studying? That's boring. That's just trees. But I want them to see through the forest for the trees. That's where I see lots of mistakes made by lots of families, right? Including families that go to the top private schools in New York City, in Boston, in Silicon Valley, in also international, right? They don't see the forest for the trees. Is that once kids, right, lucky enough to get into schools get into these very competitive Ivies and Stanford, MIT, Berkeley Engineering, et cetera. I see it. A good fraction of them actually are stressed out of their minds.
Yeah.
Are very anxiety-ridden. Some are depressed. A few even worse. Now, do the families and parents talk about that? No, it's face, it's social currency, right? Because a mistake they made is that back in high school, all they thought about is college admissions. I get it. It's such a big industry. My book, my articles probably trained 20,000 consultants out there. Okay, I hacked the entire process. You put the college admission officer right next to me. Okay, politely, I'll eat them alive because everything they know, I know already. Okay, let's talk about Harvard, Princeton, okay, Yale, Columbia, Dartmouth, Brown, Cornell, Penn, Stanford, MIT, Caltech, Berkeley Engineering, Duke, etc. You see how easy it is for me? So exactly how the college admission officers, how they think, right? They look for your character, your story, how distinctive it is, evidenced by your long, short essays, short takes, by third-party recommendation letters, teachers, counselor, maybe a third party, maybe interview for some privates, MIT is a book ahead, for example. And then the overall feel of your character, how are you going to contribute and inspire students once you're in college? And potentially, are you going to be a successful alumni for us so we could show you off? You could donate back to me. You could give back to me money, time, energy, connections, talent, okay? So it's a reverse engineering process. But when I first talk to a potential client family, I want to kind of help them plot or understand what the long-term vision is for the kids. Oftentimes, kids don't know that, right? They're just 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 14-year-olds. And I have to kind of give them a little bit of clarity. Once it becomes my client student, then I get them into what I call the 4S and 3 EQ, okay? My framework. It's very, very powerful because I've been doing that for 20,000 hours plus, right? It works. Your visionary story, including your character, sum of habits and choices, okay? So important. Your belief system, okay? Empowering, not limited. Because people got limiting beliefs that are subconscious they don't know about. I have to lift them out, replace them, right? I do that all the time. Second thing is a state of mind management. Your emotional, mental state of mind management, intellectual state of mind management, a bit of spiritual as well. Because we're not just physical beings, right? It doesn't matter what religion you have, whatever, no faith or a faith, but we're spiritual beings as well. Third is strategies, your academic strategies. I help people pick classes along the way, kind of pick the right thing to do and explain to them why and train them to beat up a skill. Okay, smart people, you have a performance goal, you always have a learning goal. Okay? Unless you know everything about a particular subject or subtopic, then you have nothing to learn. You're God. No one's God. Okay, but there's always something to learn. It's humility, right? Jeff Bezos said that the most important skill you have, the third richest person right now, is intellectual humility. Okay, curiosity, learning, growth, just learn, and grow, right? And then so strategies, and then of course college search, college planning, college application, college admission strategies. Activity strategy during school year, during summers. Students' lives are seasonal. Your life is not seasonal. My life is not seasonal. Chantal's life is not seasonal. But students' life is seasonal. Okay, one summer passes, and then the first term, maybe trimester, maybe semester, and then the next summer comes, and then the next year, the next summer comes, the next year. Their lives are seasonal. There are a lot of decisions that have to be made. And oftentimes, families don't know what decisions they need to make. I have to guide them as well. It's very, very complex. On my high schoolers page on 3EQ, I got 3 phases: preparation, application, post-application, 24-line items. These are your ingredients for success. So long-winded answer to your question.
Let me ask a question here. People assume automatically when a student gets into an Ivy League school that everything's fine.
Yeah.
The reality check. Get some feedback on that, because I think when you mentioned it, how parents focus just on getting into the top schools. I know we did. Our daughter was very fortunate, very successful. We're very happy with her. She's
right.
in school in Paris now. And I think we did open up and have a lot more fun with her as a as family. But
right.
share that with families about that one thing about just going to an Ivy League school.
Right. Absolutely. Very good question. Just to back up a little bit here, this past year has been the most competitive ever. For example, Columbia University, one of the 8 Ivies, right? 3.7 mid-rate. In other words, about 94% of the high achievers applying to the school got rejected. Think about that. Okay. A lot of them got perfect ACT 36, perfect SAT 1600, about 12 APs, a lot of activities. A lot of them got rejected. Think about that. So it's very stressful for high school kids and for parents. Okay. And especially the high wealth parents, the high net worth, ultra net worth parents, because they are successful. They want the kids to be successful. And depending on the family, sometimes they get along, sometimes they fight like you wouldn't believe. I see it all the time, right? And then they try to keep a face on the surface to the outside, but things are not like how it works in a family. So it's very competitive. Harvard less than 4%. Stanford, Harvard. I think Penn is moving in a direction. They know that mid-rate it's I'm not sure about Penn, but Stanford is the lowest ever, like 3% probably. They don't even have to publish their mid-rates anymore because they don't want to scare off families and people, right? Now, if you're lucky enough to get admitted, so for example, another one of my students, she got admitted to Columbia. She ended up going to Imperial, by the way, which is sort of like the Caltech of the UK. It's not as famous as Columbia, but it is what it is, right? It's based on the student and family's choice and fit and a sense and belonging. It just fits better for the family. They're international. Most of my students are Americans, right? Kind of West Coast, East Coast, etc. But I got clients in all over the world, right? But I'm very selective. Now, once you get in, one I talked about, you got kids going to Harvard, going to MIT, going to Berkeley Engineering, going to USC Viterbi, going to U Chicago, Duke, etc. Some kids are, because back in high school they used to be one of the top students, right? King or queen of the hill. Right. It's like, oh, I'm a top student. I'm like, star, blah, blah, blah. But once you go in there, that imposter syndrome strikes you. They look around. Most of the students are just as good as them. It's like, oh my God, how did I get in here? Right. And then they feel it's a massive adjustment to them. And then for those that did not build a strong, what I call 3 EQ, pragmatic. I like the word pragmatic because it means practical and results or outcome focused. They did not build strong enough pragmatic, emotional, social, and leadership intelligence. Notice I said 3 EQ, not just EQ. Of course, EQ is kind of trite right now, right? Emotional quotient, emotional intelligence. Absolutely. I'm totally deep into that, top expert, right? But I also like to lift up the word social and leadership on top of emotion, because emotion is an instant manifestation, of your belief system, right? Of your self-talk, thought process, and your physiology. I literally groom, or should I say mentor and guide and coach my students on how to upgrade all these elements, right? If they're already great, then I don't need to spend time there. But if these elements that are interconnected or sub-ingredients or interconnected are not there yet, then I spend some time guiding them. And sometimes I have to condition that so that becomes a habit for them over time. So, for example, one student of mine, it took me a year and a half, right? He's literally autistic, right? And the parent asked me to improve his communication overall and improve his communication with us parents. We're struggling, right? Very successful parents, right? And a year and a half later, the kid could communicate now, right? And then the parents are like, man, I could see the peace of mind in the parents. They have better relationship and better communications. Are you kidding me? I'm a parent. I know that, right? What do we want? We want health, wealth, happiness. The kids are in there. They're the most important ingredient. And I want to have a beautiful, lifelong relationship with them. I want peace of mind in addition to business, right? So my advice to parents is that don't be one of those parents that are short-sighted. I call it college admission myopia, short-sightedness. They don't see the forest for the trees. They see the trees. They want to get into the top schools. That's it. No, in high school. That's why I spend just as much energy focusing my students and help them build the 4S and 3 EQ, in addition to the obvious college process, right? And I know the college process so well, I don't even have to talk about it so much. I write about it. It's on my website. It's natural, right? Like right now, guiding kids college app process here. Yeah, absolutely. Very big on brainstorming, helping them edit, comment on those long, short essays. Each kid's going to end up writing dozens of essays, apply to easily 10 schools, reach probable solid or safeties, right? And then I spend so much time grooming them, even on a brag sheets for teachers, for counselors, for third party, so that it maximizes the inputs to the recommendations. It's a game of probability. You maximize the win probability in all the interconnected ingredients, right? It's very strategic, super strategic, very holistic, very tactical, very practical, and very nurturing in the meantime, but guiding the overall operating system, and the habits and skills and direction and mindset.
You talked about getting admitted to the top colleges and universities. So how do the students, and do you coach on how they can go about enjoying a balanced life and successful career after and during, right? I mean, there's a lot of pressure on this. I've heard some TED Talks, I think by Sean Anker, who's like the happiest coach. He says he gets into Harvard and looks around and says, all these people are struggling because now they're in Harvard with a bunch of other really smart people, and maybe they'd be better served at U of I or something like that. So how do they balance that? Hey, I've gotten in success, and then living their life on campus and then a further career.
Right. And once again, goes back to, if you want to build a skyscraper, if your foundation is not solid, deep, and precise into the bedrock, your skyscraper is going to go like this. It's scary, isn't it? And that's what a lot of kids are experiencing in these highly competitive college. Of course, college is a lot of fun, right? You get your boyfriend, girlfriend, right? You get your activities, you get more freedom compared to the very outdated high school system. Not the public high school system in the United States is about 150 years behind schedule. It's called factory processing, okay? Period 0, 1, 2, 3. Those were designed before 1900s by those very rich families, right? Because they want to factory process everyone. Okay, it's a marching band, right? But that system hasn't changed at all. Private schools are a little bit better, but it's still period 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not that personalized, right? If the high schools, so private schools and the public schools, and I got students from the very top private schools. For example, in Atherton, okay, the median price for a home is $9 million. It's the most expensive town in the United States, Atherton in Silicon Valley. I got kids that go to the top private school that are my students, because they know, Mr. Ma, my counselor just don't have your skills, your sophistication on how the real world works, okay? So that's why way back in high school, I intentionally honed their foundation, their habits, their character, their skills, the mindset, the direction, in ways that these counselors, including almost all the independent counselors out there, cannot do it. Because a lot of independent counselors out there, they're very good people. They are former, deans of assistant deans from Princeton, from Stanford. They're very good people. They're experts in a college admission process. This guy is a top expert in the college admission process. But I'm also a CEO, right? I got invited to the Forbes Global CEO Conference 8 times. And I build companies, right? I'm part of a B20, G20 future work. I know how the world really works, because the kid's going to spend 4 years in college. And then the kid's going to spend, 4 times 20, maybe 80 years in industry. Because a lot of people that love what they do, they're not retiring at 65, okay? Got it? So for example, Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner, co-chairman, Berkshire Hathaway, the guy's 98 years old, working full-time. He loves it, okay? I'm like that. Why should I start working what I want, passionate, contributing, and inspiring the society? Yeah, so kids are, especially Gen Z right now, they're very missionary. They're purposeful. They're practical. They don't know 9/11, but they went through the Great Recession. Okay, they're different than millennials. I'm telling you. In fact, Gen Z and Boomers got some similarities. Of course, I joke with the Gen Zs, right? I'll arm wrestle you anytime, right? And so all those ingredients, you have to build a strength, right? So then if you have the right personal operating system, what I call it 4S and 3Q, entering the top competitive college, things are much easier for you, right? My students, the ones that have been with me for quite a while, they look around over time, they're more relaxed. They get their 8-hour, 9-hour sleep. They tend to get more things done with less. They feel clear. They're contributing and as a better leader. As a leader, you make more money too. You're more impactful. Hello, right? And of course, once you're in college, then don't hesitate to take advantage of all the resources. Part of the skills is resourcefulness. Okay, I would say your resilience, elasticity, okay, resourcefulness, adaptability, tenacity, on top of your soft skills, right? Compassion, empathy, and your critical thinking, strategic thinking, a bit of creativity, communication, right? One-on-one, public speaking, of course, first-person essay writing, right? You learn quite a bit about expository third person from school. I don't need to teach you that. Collaboration, teamwork, the social part in 3EQ. Those are things I do as well in coaching my students, right? It's a little bit different than almost all other people. That's my take. That's my take, in my opinion.
Sounds good. It sounds like, and I think you might have said this, but it sounds like you're almost installing a new operating system on top of these kids so that they're just running better and more efficient. Is that what you would say?
I would say not installing a new operating system. It's optimizing their operating system. It's optimizing their mindset, their soft skills on top of the hard skills. Soft skills stick with you forever. Hard skills could get obsolete in a couple of years. It is what it is. The world is very turbulent and ever-changing. The work world is very competitive, okay? And you want to get into Google? By the way, it's a miracle my daughter got Google. Laszlo Bach, the former senior vice president for people operations, or HR for Google, he said it's 25 times harder to get into Google than to get into Harvard as a freshman. He wasn't kidding you, okay? Now it's more like maybe 15 times. Google hires only 0.25%, 1 out of 400 applications. Think about that. Okay, Harvard admits less than 1 out of 20.
So did they only hire Ivy Leagues out of Google?
No. I remember back in 2003, back in 2003, I met with an independent board director at Google and also met some of my high-level senior executive friends in Google. I actually interviewed for the position. Lo and behold, he told me, Jason, we need to hire a VP for Asia Pacific for Google. I said, sure, I raised my hand. And ended up they hiring someone better than me, right? I said, we need some help in China, other places here. But along the way, I met a lot of people and I learned. Back then, about, was it 19 years ago? Google hired only from 15 schools way back then. But today, they're very open. They hire from everyone. They just want to get the best candidates, okay? So different thing. There's separate subject.
Yes, I want to ask a question about your 3EQ, your mentoring and coaching program, because we have people in the audience here who are on the boards of different private schools and some of the public schools. Can you tell them what makes your program, your coaching program, different than some of the other programs that people see out there?
Sure. When it comes to, because the media and all the conditioning the media does, and then all the college consultants stuff, all they talk about is really college admissions. You read articles all the time, right? The worst is Operation Varsity Blue, right? Rick Singer, the crook, right? That in fact some parents are unfortunately in jail for doing some things that are very unethical. Right. I even wrote a Forbes article 10 years ago about college application cheating is a learning moment for China or something like that. That was not my headline. The Forbes managing editor, he had more creative, provocative headlines, right? I even wrote an article called When to Say No to Harvard. Harvard didn't like that, by the way. One of the guys wrote me and said, I don't like that. But it's really about, I talked about the difference between research universities and liberal arts colleges and all the controversial BS rankings out there. Because people don't read the methodologies. But when you understand the methodologies, you go, oh my God, what a joke that is, right? I respect all of them because they're just commercial operations. Way back then, China even thought the US News and Reports were an official government document. They're not. It's just a for-profit commercial operation. I respect them tremendously. I use that as well as one input, but under my own discernment, right? I think, going back to your question again, what's your question again, Chantal?
What makes your 3EQ coaching?
Okay, right. So it's actually very simple. in addition to, because this audience is more, I guess, parents with high school kids and maybe college transfer kids, right? Of course, college counseling, okay? Because most high net worth, ultra net worth parents, right, want kids to go to the best schools. Obviously, same here, okay? And I got, in fact, of all the Ivies, I got the most kids admitted to Harvard and Penn and Cornell. And of course, you know, Princeton, Columbia, Dartmouth, Brown, Cornell, and all other schools, right? And yeah, go real deep in college process, planning, application, admissions, right? But I won't have time to explain in this talk, but I encourage you to go to 3q.com, THREEEQ.com. Just go to the high schoolers page. It's pretty detailed there in terms of methodology and all that. So college counseling. But on top of that, but integrated with the college process in high school is, once again, my 4S and 3Q one-on-one mentorship coaching framework. Okay. You integrate that and, you know, raise your visionary story, your character, okay, your belief system, okay, empowering beliefs, not limiting beliefs, okay, not you know, kind of longer term, lifelong impact thinking, in addition to short-term goal achievements, right? Of course, right? Short-term, medium-term goal achievements, college admissions, but build a strong foundation in your rising skyscraper so that you do well, more efficiently, more resourcefully, with more fun, more joy, better peace of mind, better relationship. And that's where the 4S and 3Q model comes in. Visionary story, state of mind management, strategies, soft skills on top of hard skills, execution, getting things done. I literally guide and, if not, kind of make my students execute. And then also hone the execution skills, right? Because once you're working, if you don't execute, you're fired. It's that simple.
Right.
You go to Harvard, you go to Wharton, all right, then the employer on average believe that you are smarter than a lot of other kids. The doors are open to you. But once you get in, you better perform with good conduct. If you don't perform with good conduct, you're fired. It's that simple. All employers care about, and I could tell you one of the line items in the policy recs we provide to the presidents and prime ministers and the governments in the G20, we get the attention, by the way, at the B20, G20, okay, is really employable skills. That's what employers care about, right? That you better perform. If I don't care if you graduate from Stanford, you don't perform, you're an asshole, then you're out, okay? I mean, we'll be compassionate escorting you out, but we're going to fire quickly. That's what smart employers do. Smart employers hire carefully, but fire quickly. Separate topic, okay? So 3Q, pragmatic, emotional, social leadership intelligence. That's what I do, right? Everything's integrated. It's an integrated process. So I call it integrated outcomes, short, medium, long term, life with lifelong impact, higher. With better relationships in family, around you, in community, in school, in employers, internship, and jobs later, nonprofits, if that's what you want, and peace of mind. At the end of the day, in a family, especially for parents, what they really look for is really peace of mind, especially for the very wealthy families.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up another thing. And I've asked this in the past. It's the B20 and the G20 and the impact that has on businesses going forward, because a lot of the people coming out of these elite schools, they climb the corporate ladder and want to go off into their own business. It's important to know what the terrain looks like going forward. Can you share that with our audience?
That's an absolute separate topic. The G20, B20 this year is especially interesting, as you can imagine. The Russian war,
yeah,
the turbulence, the deteriorating relation with China. I'm going to be there, by the way, in Bali in a month and a half. It's crazy, right? So the B20 summit leading to the G20 leaders summit, everyone's going to be there. So the Prime Minister of India is going to speak in our summit because we're handing off from Indonesia to India next year. And I've been through Australia, Turkey, China, Germany, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Italy. This year's Indonesia. Post-COVID, finally, we could get together physically. So I'm very excited. So that part of Bali is going to be pretty blocked off, right? I would say for employers, for CEOs, for senior executives, for family office executives, for principals of family offices, for you very successful investors and company builders out there, really take care of your own health, mindset, your own spirit, really take care of your next gen. Okay. Don't wait too long. Really get trusted third-party, top-notch mentorship. I'm not kidding you, because that is a secret sauce right there. I could tell you, I'm not patting myself on the back here, but I'm just speaking from over 20,000 hours of success pattern recognition, and then patterns that don't work. And I see so many of the same mistakes made by so many families all the time. They're not my clients. I keep my mouth shut. Hint, hint.
Okay. Makes sense.
And then the business part, that's a separate topic. We don't have time for that. So
yeah, we had about 15 minutes. So
we do. Oh, yeah. We're extending the talk.
We extended because I think the audience loves what they're hearing. So
sure. Okay.
Yeah, about 12 minutes.
Sure. Okay. Happy to go deeper in whatever you want to go for. So far, we talked a bit about, not all, about high school kids and college prep and, kind of life coaching, career coaching, leadership coaching, blah, 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 integrated with a college process coaching. And if you'd like to go deeper in that or whatever.
Here's what I wanted to ask about. Soft skills. Because I think that we see that's not very important in the work world, and yet it is very important. But how does it affect the students from university level and into their life and on all the way through and like I'm going to call it the Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett lifestyle, because these guys, they love what they do, and they should have retired based on most people's business model years back, 30 years back. But when you retire at 65 years old, that's a 30-year window that's gone to. Well, I mean, if you just want a garden, okay, fine. But I mean, skills you love.
Absolutely. Warren Buffett's about 92 now. The guy rocks, man, sharp as a tack, right? Charlie Munger, 98. The guy's 98, man. I love these guys. I want to give him a big fat hug, right? And here's an example. I got hundreds of examples to throw at you. My younger daughter, for example, Lydia, she interned at Slack 2 summers in a row. It's very important for you to build employable skills, right? So, for example, one of my high school students, in the old days, years and years ago, I used to guide them for, your junior to senior year summer, sophomore to junior summer in high school, get into these highly competitive, good-looking summer camps, right? RSI or Simmer Medical or LBW in Wharton or something like that, right? But these days, I tend to like to guide students to get into a real working internship, because you learn so much more. And then you beef up your soft skills and your hard skills. And it also deepens your story as well. And then I see it over and over again. And then your resume starts building sooner, you see. It's like compound interest. Because once again, employers, you went to top school. I'm assuming that you're smarter than a lot of kids. But they're looking for employable skills. And these employable skills, it's not like an overnight thing, okay? Read my articles, right? The latest article I wrote, it's preparing your children for college admissions, career, life, leadership success with well-being, okay? Just go to my website, and I talk about these things. So it's, you start early, stress less, and you gain a lot more. With more efficiency, with more joy, right? Less stress, less anxiety, more peace of mind. So build employable skills. If there's one tip that I give you right early on, right?
Start early. So my kids are, as you mentioned, are in 6th grade, right? So you said that's the article you wrote. Start applying or thinking about college in 6th grade. So what would be the number one thing? Like my daughter started a lemonade stand. She opened it up, sold cookies. She made like $500 on the street corner just selling cookies in a lemonade stand. So what would you think would be the number one thing that my 6th graders should do to start that first step on that journey?
Now, that said, that does not apply to some kids. Some kids like to go straight to grad school and go to med school and go to law school. Those are a little bit different, right? But at the same time, you still want to build employable skills, because through the process, you're going to get into residency. You're going to have to work with people, work with other hospitals, and then an intern at a law firm. Those are employable skills, okay? Everything's got to be employable. It's got to be scalable, okay? One example for you, my younger daughter, I forgot to say that. So she interned at Slack twice. And then first time she was a value realization internship, some technical marketing, some kind of homing product optimization. Second time, lo and behold, she's a Wharton kid, which is business school, but she got into a software engineering internship, which is very unusual for Wharton, okay? Wharton, MIT, Stanford, Harvard is hyper competitive, you know that, right? So the Wharton kids are a little bit, they're pretty intense. And then so she did so well that she did a full stack project on her own, even though she did not take tons and tons of CS courses. But they have shaped, partially in the beginning by mentorship, they have learned to build real strong learnability, the ability to learn complex things very quickly and process it, okay? That integrates the ability to focus, their capacity, their mental, their emotional. So a lot of things are involved in the 4S and 3Q, right? And then so did a full stack project and really rocked and then presented her project before she left the internship to hundreds of people online in Slack, including C-suites and senior executives, peers, and all that. And people jaws dropped. Why? The kid could communicate. She could communicate so well. And the kid's got leadership chops, right? And it's like, man. And then ended up, she's got C-suite people who wanted to mentor her. They raised their hand, And because a lot of the older folks with gray hair, like me, you and me, I'm actually a tail end boomer. I know I look like I just graduated high school. It's my favorite bad joke, right? But so I bring the energy like a Gen Z, but the wisdom like a boomer, right? Boomer actually rules the world. You guys know that 65, $70 trillion of wealth are going to be transferred over the next 2-3 decades. Right. I wrote an article about that. You should read that. The Art of Mentoring Next Gen and Succession Planning. It's on my website, okay? And then most of the wealth, it's really boomers' wealth, okay? Boomers, only tens of millions in the United States. We actually control 1/7 of the wealth in the world, FYI. Separate topic, okay? So going back to Lydia, communications skills, leadership skills, right? Her 3 EQ. And is she perfect in the rest of her skills? No, not yet. She's just a kid. She's only 22 right now. But is she scalable? Absolutely. Right? So yeah, just like so keep kind of honing these soft skills while building the story, even in middle school. Middle school, I would say get into a real strong reading habit. That's the most important skill to build. Just be real good readers. Okay, you read fiction, nonfiction, and kind of and I coach and mentor my kids, myself included. I think learning or applied research. Applied research means deep learning on subjects you really like, right? Applied research to me is like pure entertainment. It is so fun. I love to learn. And that's part of how I instill, that's part of the values, the principles I instill into my students, right? That's part of the foundation, easy.
Yeah. What do you think about travel? So last month we spent a month, our family went to Italy and Greece for a month. A couple of years pre-COVID, we were in Costa Rica. How do you think that affects the child's kind of growth pattern?
It's great. Travel. When you travel, I myself, I travel somewhere between 2 to 3 million miles. I lost track over the past 5 decades, right? 5+ decades. And it's a real eye opener because so much culture is to learn, so much stuff that is refreshing, so exciting. Then you get more compassionate, more empathetic towards other people. It's part of the D&I equation. It's part of a diversity inclusion equation. Even in the Bible, okay, in the book of Revelation, over 7 times you talk about the diversity of race, tribe, languages, nations, okay? And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But when you travel as a family, parents and students, don't just be tourists, please. Be very curious in learning, right? And connecting, talk to locals. Okay, that's my encouragement. Of course, have fun, right?
Yeah.
And our daughter, we traveled quite a bit, and our daughter's been in many, many countries. And one thing she did, we had her interview people in key positions. I mean, she interviewed the last living person from the Crimean War in Russia when they were in Moscow. She interviewed someone from the Tower, London Bridge in London. She interviewed we do this as a habit. We incorporate her into sort of beyond just all the fancy things you do when you're touring as a tourist. But that leaves an impact on her brain, and she has a log of all the conversations that she's had.
That's wonderful.
Skill.
Wonderful.
We've got about 5 minutes left. I want to recommend anyone who's interested in being on our show as a speaker. Go to moneytalkviewpoint.org. Our next show the next show for Family Office is going to be the first Thursday in November. That's November 3rd. We have an upcoming show October the 20th. That's going to be our family-owned and entrepreneur show. And let's see. That's about all I have to say for now. We got about a few minutes left. Keep going, Jason. I know people are loving this.
Sure. We have any additional questions? Happy to answer from audience, from you guys.
Yeah. Were there any questions in chat that didn't get answered?
I think we forgot to turn that box on.
Right.
But you know what? Most important thing is how can they reach out to you? Both of you, Stuart. I know you're going to be on the show every month, but Jason, how can they reach out to you? Because particularly for the parents in the audience who
Sure.
have students preparing to go to college.
And I know that during work time, a lot of people that like to come cannot make it, right? That's good that you're going to have a recording to send to other people, because that vast majority of people cannot make live shows. I know that.
Right.
And just go to 3q.com. That's it. Everything's there. My email is there. The actionable insights and tips there is like very, very, very wealthy. It's a wealth of it. You have to spell it out, THREEEQ.com. Just go to the website. Everything's there. So you could browse the high schoolers page, browse the study the high schoolers page, and feel free to reach out to me. Study the young adults page if you got young adults, or study the middle schoolers page if you got middle schoolers. And then one of my latest students is actually a famous family office CEO in her 40s, right? I also coach and mentor middle-aged successful people. Their goals are a little bit different, as you can imagine. Their goals is not about college admissions. Their goal is more about, career, business, personal success. Okay, with that family, also how to be a better parent. I literally have very successful, powerful parents. They say, Jason, teach me to be a better parent, privately, right? But they always say that don't reveal that you're my mentor, you're my secret weapon. Almost all my clients just want to keep it real secret. Jason, keep it very private. You're a secret weapon, right? It's one-on-one.
My wife and I have date night tonight, and I have a feeling, even though we have a no phones at the table rule, we might be looking up your website and discussing it this evening.
Yeah. There's so much stuff in there. There's so much content. In fact, I hear of some people that, oh my God, so much content, it's overwhelming. I said, you're not thinking. Just pick things you like to read, and that's it. Okay, keep things very simple.
That's the bottom line, isn't it?
Keep it simple, relevant to you.
Okay, we've got about a minute and 30 seconds left. Anything else you guys want to add before we pop off the air here? Stuart, tell them how to reach out to you. Stuart will be on the show every month, but for someone who's looking to meet with a virtual family office person, how can they reach out to you?
Again, same thing on my website. They can reach me at cruiseassetmanagement.com, and that's KRUSE, assetmanagement.com. I'm on LinkedIn, same place, Cruise AM, and that's probably the best way to reach out to me.
Okay, and AK's in the background. I know he's not going to pop back up, but he's our marketing specialist. He does all this background information for us. I look forward to seeing all of you next month. I think it's November 3rd. And for those of you who are interested in family-owned businesses and entrepreneurs, that is going to be October the 20th. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. And Halloween is in a couple of weeks. I know my door is going to be full of kids. I've got my pumpkins outdoors already. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Jason, thank you so much again.
It was a pleasure and honor. Thank you so much.